Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Welcome to BCIT's The Crow. I'm Nate Elms. And this is your 3:30 news update. The City of Vancouver unveiled a new city-funded childcare center in the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House. The new $14.2 million childcare center has space for 69 children aged 0 to 5 years old. This is one of the 6 new childcare centers set to open in Vancouver by 2026. In the Yukon, the Water Resources Branch says the territory's snowpack levels are showing wide variance from region to region, with below-average levels across the south. The survey shows flood risk will be low for most of the territory. However, the Yukon River Basin near Dawson is well above average at 170% of historical levels. The territory warns communities in the Klondike region can expect above-average flood potential during the spring freshet. Back to Vancouver, a local popular burger joint is returning to downtown after a temporary shutdown saw the business move to Kitsilano. Sandro Vargas reports more on the challenges facing the restaurant.
In the month of February alone, more than 10 restaurants reported closures in Metro Vancouver, and in September of last year, Stats Canada reported a closure rate of 5%, the highest reported since 2020. Although having endured financial hardship caused by the pandemic, Juicy Joe's Burgers managed to stay afloat due to their shared rental agreement with another restaurant. Nearly 4 years after opening, Juicy Joe's has finally been able to announce plans for a new storefront in Kitsilano, opening up sometime next week. While the owner, Sina Simansani, has noted a lack of government support as a key challenge for his local business, that hasn't stopped the chain from expanding outwards. Sandro Vargas, BCIT News.
And Sandro joins us live in studio. Hi, Sandro. So I have a question. How long has Juicy Joe's been around?
The restaurant opened up about 3.5 years ago. They've had plans to open their location for quite some time now, but COVID and rising prices had made things difficult.
And you mentioned that they share a rental agreement with another restaurant. How does that work exactly?
Basically, Juicy Joe's was previously operating as what's called a ghost kitchen, meaning there was no dine-in at their location as it was occupied by another restaurant. They would only use the facilities when the other restaurant would close during the day.
Awesome, gotcha. Well, thanks for joining us, Sandro. So, moving on, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre struck a more conciliatory tone this afternoon in reacting to Prime Minister Mark Carney's announcing his cabinet. He told reporters the federal Conservatives would support the government where they agree, but stand up against it when they don't.
My message to Mr. Carney, steal my ideas. We've got great ideas. And we've been leading the charge on the debate over carbon taxes, inflation, housing prices, crime, drugs, resource development. And I note the Liberals even lifted a few of those ideas and put them in their platform to get reelected. We want to make sure that they were sincere about that.
Poilievre is still waiting for a by-election date to be welcomed back into the Federal House of Commons after losing his Ottawa area riding. As Mark Carney fills out his cabinet, it's time for the Government of Canada to get to work on fulfilling promises made on the campaign trail. One big commitment was to work with the provinces to increase the amount of skilled trades workers. Our reporter Joe McHugh has more.
Work BC estimates that there will be demand for over 120,000 skilled trades jobs in British Columbia over the next 10 years. One way to increase the size of the labor pool is to promote trades careers to women. Jessica Osorio is currently training to become an automotive service technician. I asked her how important it is to have other women in her class.
I have 2 other women, and that's very touching for me. I feel like I'm understood more. I just think a lot of other people shouldn't be scared to pursue what they want.
It remains to be seen if BC will be able to meet the growing demand for skilled trades workers in the years to come. As far as increasing the amount of women in the industry, Osorio believes it's a matter of when, not if. Joe McHugh, BCIT News.
And we have Joe live with us in the studio. So what percentage of trades workforce are women?
Well, currently less than 10% of trades workers are women, according to Stats Can, which is, as you can imagine, that's quite low.
And what barriers do this 10% of women in trades face?
Yeah, so I mean, though there have been like pretty big leaps forward in recent years, there women entering into trades, they do still face harassment and discrimination at a much higher rate compared to their male colleagues.
I see. Well, thank you for joining us, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the union representing thousands of Alberta government workers has voted in favor of strike action. Alberta Union of the Provincial Employees President, Guy Smith, says members voted 90% in favor of hitting the picket lines. He clarified that union members don't want to strike, but they will if they have to.
We now have the full backing and support of the members, and we call upon the government to come back to the table and negotiate seriously towards a successful conclusion.
Union President Smith says the union is seeking wage hikes, improved working conditions, and job security for 23,000 people working office jobs in law enforcement, social work, and wildfire response. Residents in Alliston, Ontario are reeling after Honda Canada's announcement postponing the planned $15 billion investment into EV manufacturing in the area. Ontario Premier Doug Ford assured that the delay is only temporary and the provincial government will hold the automaker accountable.
Well, when I've talked to Honda, they've promised us they're going to continue on with their expansion. They're going to keep that facility moving forward. So we'll just see how that moves forward. But we're very confident that we'll continue producing Honda vehicles here in Ontario.
Honda Canada is Alliston's largest employer and produces 400,000 CRVs and Civics annually. In New Brunswick, a man has been arrested following a shooting. Don Mitchell with the Canadian Press reports.
Police in St. John say the man arrested was involved in a shooting around the commercial uptown area of the city. Investigators say a 20-year-old man was found dead in a vehicle as officers responded to a mid-morning shots fired call. 3 male suspects were seen leaving the area on foot in what's being called an isolated incident. The shooting led police to lock down schools in the area around King Square and issue an order for residents to remain indoors. Those orders have since been lifted. Don Mitchell, the Canadian Press.
A resentencing hearing for Eric and Lyle Menendez is underway today and could dictate whether they can get a lower sentence for the murders of their parents. The Menendez brothers were sentenced in 1996 to life in prison in a widely covered and high-profile case. They've spent over 30 years in prison. However, they have defended their actions, saying that they were victims of abuse and that they are ready to rejoin society. During a break outside the courthouse, defense lawyer Mark Gagarros said the brothers have the support of their family.
The fact is that the family, all of the living members of the family, are unified in their belief that they should be released and released immediately.
The judge could decide on the resentencing from the bench during the hearing or issue a written ruling later. Associated Press correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports on the settlement in the death of a Boeing whistleblower.
The family of a former Boeing quality control manager who killed himself after lawyers questioned him about his whistleblowing has settled a lawsuit against the airplane maker. John Barnett was a longtime Boeing employee and reported what he thought were jumbo jet defects to Boeing. After Barnett retired in 2017, he shared his concerns with journalists. He said he once saw discarded metal shavings near wiring for the flight controls that could have cut wiring, and noted problems with up to a quarter of the oxygen systems on Boeing's 787 planes. Boeing says that the company took actions several years ago to address those issues. Details of the settlement were not disclosed. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he plans to ease sanctions on Syria to help build better relations with the new government. The announcement came shortly before Trump was set to meet the Syrian president, Ahmad al-Shara.
I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
Trump says he hopes the new government succeeds and wishes them luck. International aid agencies are calling on Israel to lift its blockade on food and other supplies in Gaza. Kate Phillips Barrasso is the Vice President for Global Policy and Advocacy at Mercy Corps and says the blockade is making food very scarce.
A bag of flour now costs something like $500 on the market, and that prices have surged over the course of this conflict by 500%. So the average person cannot afford to buy anything, and there is nothing left for humanitarian organizations to go out. So we are truly at the end of the line.
Now for weather in Vancouver, it is currently sitting at 15 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud, and expect a low of 9 this evening. Moving in later this week, should expect some rain, some precipitation, but should be good. Thanks for tuning in. This has been your afternoon update with Nate Elms for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
We start today with game day in the NHL playoffs. Just one game on the schedule tonight as the Winnipeg Jets look to even up their series against the Stars. In order to do that, the team will need to pick up their first road win of the postseason in Dallas. The Stars will be boosted by the return of defenseman Miro Heiskanen, who is expected to return to the lineup after missing over 3 months following knee surgery. The 25-year-old Finn recorded 25 points in 50 games this season. Puck drop is at 5 p.m. Staying on the ice with the IIHF World Hockey Championships and game day for Team Canada. A rather comfortable victory in the end for the Red and White as they won 5-0 against France in a game that took place in Stockholm. Goalie Jordan Binnington got the nod and made 15 saves for the shutout. Canada found balanced scoring from across the lineup with Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, and Bo Horvat all contributing on the score sheet. Today's earlier action saw Latvia beat Slovenia 5-2 and Germany defeat Norway by the same scoreline. Canada will play next on Thursday against Austria. Sticking with Canada, but moving over to soccer now, today marks 1 year on the job for Canada's national soccer team head coach Jesse Marsh, and the 51-year-old American says he couldn't be happier with how things have gone.
In general, this has vastly exceeded my expectations for what the overall experience has been. For me personally, as a coach, as a person, I just feel like I found a home. And that's a really good feeling to have as a coach.
Canada were ranked 49th in the FIFA World Rankings before Marsh took over. Today they sit 30th, a record high for the team. Over to the MLB now, with game day and the start of a new series for the Toronto Blue Jays. The Jays are coming off an impressive 3-game sweep of the Mariners down in Seattle for the first time in 33 years. This season, the team has been led offensively by outfielder George Springer and first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The Jays will be looking to win their season-high 5th straight game of the year. On the mound for the Jays is Jose Berrios. He will be going up against Shane Baz. First pitch is at 4:07 p.m. Staying in the MLB, as the league announced today that permanent ineligibility for the game's highest honor ends when a player passes away, clearing the way for Hall of Fame consideration for Pete Rose and others. Commissioner Rob Manfred made the call after Rose's family applied for a review. Rose, who died in 2024, was banned in 1989 for betting on games. The new policy affects 17 deceased players, including shoeless Joe Jackson. While this doesn't guarantee Hall of Fame induction, it makes them eligible. The next vote happens in 2027. Special credit goes to our producer Quinlan Curry for breaking the news. Shifting our focus now to a story from a fellow BCIT student about mental health awareness in BC. Athletes have faced negative stigma for decades when it comes to seeking mental health. Our reporter Avia Boulay speaks about how athletes can find the support they need during the month of May and beyond.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but it's also playoff season, finals, and college admission deadlines. Athletes of all levels and ages seek specific sports-catered counseling and support, whether that is due to the stress of being a student athlete, a game-changing injury, or poor team performance. Psychologists around BC are specializing in supporting athletes with any mental health struggles they may be facing. Despite Mental Health Awareness Month ending in May, support for athletes is accessible and available. Avia Boulay, BCIT News.
And big news out of the CFL today as the BC Lions have announced that legendary artist Snoop Dogg will be performing at their home opener. The 53-year-old rapper will take to the stage shortly before the Lions kick off their season on June 7th. Last year's concert kickoff saw rapper 50 Cent perform in front of a sold-out crowd of more than 53,000. Get those tickets, they're selling out quick. Finishing off now with the PWHL and playoff action between the Montreal Victoire and the Ottawa Charge. They face off for Game 3 tonight, tied in the series after a marathon Game 2, which saw Montreal win after 135 minutes of action. Whew, I'm sure they were tired after that one. Puck drop is at 4 p.m. And those were your sports headlines till 3:50. Tune in again tomorrow for more sports action. I'm your host, Babak Roshandelli, for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.